3 All-Ireland medalists, or certainly 3 All-Ireland medals in the studio. They're all Endas though. Enda McGinley, Danny Hughes and Anthony Moyles have all joined us. Lads, thanks a million.
Where's mine?
That's a nice way. I'm walking out of here. I'm having enough of this.
You didn't know the panel was going to have to start with this level of abuse. 53106 for 30 cent is our text number. If you want to get in touch with us, put any questions to the lads over the course of the next hour or so. You can tweet us on Twitter at @OffTheBall. Chambridge have been full swing, lads, but so much of the week has been dominated by all things Offaly. And just when you thought the story was going to die off for a day or two, the news breaks over the last 36 hours or so, or 24 hours, that Paul Rouse has taken the job as interim Offaly senior football manager. Now, this is certainly out of the blue. We would know Paul Rouse very well here on Off the Ball. He would join us for regular panels. He would be part of our paper review on a Sunday regularly. He's the UCD lecturer and very much into the history of the GA. And so he's taken that alongside 3 other Offaly men who are now part of his backroom team. We brought you the news in our news round with Shane there. Danny, speaking as a man from a county that has had its fair share of issues off the field over the last 12 months, what have you made of what's gone on in Offaly over the last week?
I suppose it's pretty strange when a county board mid-season would get rid of any manager. I think that's it's new times that we're in. So was I surprised it happened? Absolutely. Was I surprised that some of the commentary coming out of the camp wasn't positive? Not really, but that happens mid-season with any team that's maybe losing a first round championship game or things aren't going that well. So it wasn't a surprise that Offaly were going to act on I know that there was a bit of commentary around why Offaly were beaten by Wicklow, etc., etc. But I'm surprised the county board sacked their manager, to be honest. All things being equal, would they have been better just to, batten down the hatches and stick to the end of the season? Probably would have been less publicity and stuff around it and let it quieten down. So would I have done that if I was a county board member in Offaly? Probably. I don't think he's an Offaly man. I don't think anybody deserves to be sacked after one championship game. So, to be honest, I don't know enough about the internals of Offaly and where their expectations are or where they should be. To be beating the first championship match is going to happen on another 16 teams, you say, in Ireland, so are they all going to get rid of their manager? So it's a worrying development, but not unsurprising. Do
you think, Enda, if he had been from Offaly and he wasn't this blow-on from Kerry, that it would have made it a lot more difficult for them to do what they've done this week?
I think so, potentially, because you end up annoying clubs and you end up maybe creating longer divisions. But I think that the key thing for me, and it's the Offaly County Board, bar their statement, which was exceptionally short, hasn't really got out in their airwaves, and it was, as Brian Gavin has been putting forward the main facts, which Wallace, which Wallace, who's taken quite a bit of airtime, has really shut them down quite convincingly for me. Now, no evidence as such has come out, but he has talked about 2 weeks prior to the game that the players were for going on strike and had handed him a letter to be handed in.
Yeah, had a letter and ready to sign it and send it in.
He had managed to get that changed. His 8-week suspension was supposedly 12 weeks, which it didn't. It was 8 weeks. That obviously had come out 3-4 weeks prior to the championship game. And the county board.
There was also talk that the county board actually knew a lot earlier than they were making out.
Yeah, well, he said the text message which he sent the county board officer that the appeal had failed.
Yeah, we had Stephen Wallace on during the week. He was chatting to Ger. This was his thoughts on the fact that he had been sacked so unceremoniously.
How exactly was the news communicated to you that you were being relieved of your duties?
Oh, well, very, very simply, I got a phone call last night about 9:30. Saying that I've been relieved of my position as a senior football manager, and it's as short and sweet as that.
Right, and from the county board chairman?
Indeed, yeah.
And so what was your relationship like with the county board and the county board chairman over the last while?
Look, the bottom line is, as a manager, your major concern is your players. There was unbelievable untruth put out in the media this week that I'd lost the dressing room. Players fall out, players walking out, couldn't be further from the truth. The relationship with the county board I suppose from day one, it would have been strained because, they're a difficult board to work with. There's ongoing issues all the time in terms of getting the best possible platforms and processes for the players. It's a constant battle from that point of view. But as a manager, I suppose, look, I'd always consider myself a players manager, and they were my number one concern. And they issued a statement in reply to all this media nonsense, and they handed it to the county board chairman before training last night at around 7:30. And I suppose it's out there in the media now. It's well documented. Where they give 110% support for me as manager, my management team, and my backroom team, and we're looking forward to knuckling down and having a cut off the qualifiers. They were bitterly disappointed with their performance last Sunday, and understandably so, because look, we malfunctioned. And next thing I know, I'm gone. So you answer me that.
Yeah, I don't think there is an answer. That was Stephen Wallace speaking to Ger during the week. So the fact is, Moyles, is that he's gone. So he won't be seen around Offaly for forever, really.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm sure he probably regrets.
I'm sure he's not going on holiday now.
He regrets the day that he set foot in the county in the first place. I'm sure of that, there's no doubt. But if we broaden it out to the rest of the counties and GA in a general sense, the county board said in sacking him that it had nothing to do with the players. We weren't even sure if the statement that the players had prepared and had it into the county board was read during the meeting during which they sacked Stephen Wallace, or took the decision to sack Stephen Wallace. And Tommy Byrne refused to say to Ger whether or not that statement had seen the light of day during that meeting, which would strike me as being pretty disrespectful to these guys who are putting in hundreds of training sessions, trying to get themselves right to play for the county. Where do you think what sort of a signal does this send out to players in not just Offaly but in every county, that the county board doesn't necessarily have your best interests at heart? They won't consult you before they take such a massive decision like this, considering the players publicly were willing to go in and bat for their manager?
I don't think it probably should surprise too many inter-county players, to be honest with you. I'd say there's massive amounts of players over the years who would say, that they, their relationship, shall we say, with the inter-county or the county board is non-existent, to the fact of half the people on the county board probably wouldn't even necessarily engage or even know some of the players. You'd know the big names, but we've all seen it. I'm sure you lads saw it over the years. You go in, these people are, a lot of them now, I don't want to generalise, but a lot of them are in this kind of fiefdom. That's their job, that's their power base, and they do that job in whatever way sometimes they so choose. And the inter-county panels change and come and go, but these people are stalwarts there for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, and they rule with an iron fist. Like the Wallace thing smacks of that there was no contingency plan, that the suspension happened. I was surprised they didn't actually say then and there, listen, you can't go on the field, you can't train the team, we're just going to have to move you aside.
And Stephen Wallace, in fairness to him, he said during the week, well, look, if they'd said back in May when he got the suspension, or back early in May, that this just isn't going to work, you can't even take training with the lads, we're going to have to look elsewhere, he said he would have accepted it at the time. But somehow this changed, it became more of an issue because they were beaten by Wicklow.
Yeah, well, I'd say it was one of these, let's hold our hands together and let's pray that we get over Wicklow, and then we have another 2 weeks, and then we'll just kind of see how that goes on, and we'll continue to kick it on. To be honest, the whole thing is a bit of a mess. It's a mess, and as I say, from the sense of no one actually stood up at the time and said, okay, this is a pretty big disciplinary issue, no matter what way he wants to play it down, because I think he was playing it down. You can't get involved like that, especially with his profile as an inter-county manager, whether his family or whatever is playing. You have to have enough. You can say we all lose the head, but you have to draw a line on something like that. Okay, so the Offaly County Board could have and probably should have said, no, we can't have that. We can't have a situation where we have a fella who's managing the team, for whatever reasons, right? So if they then so chose to back him, well, then they should have backed him for the 3 years, which is what they're saying that he had a tenure for 3 years, and then they decide actually out of loss. And I heard him talking about it's not Offaly's God-given right to beat Wicklow, and he's right in that fact. I think they've won one game in Leinster in the last 10 years.
But you see, that's you're touching on elements. You've obviously a county board there that are being swayed by public opinion, disciplinary or whatever else. Second thing is, the players themselves, and I would be very much in the players' corner. But in any panel, you're going to get 5, 6, 7 lads that are a bit discontented, and you would know that. And
agitators.
And even with the strongest management team, you'll have boys walk in and walk out or aren't happy, etc. So your captain and your vice captain and your senior players need to be very, very strong. And for me, the Offaly senior players or players haven't been strong, and that's probably why they've been beat by Wicklow. You can blame the manager all he wants for maybe his training wasn't good or whatever else, but on Wallace's side as well, he has to take the blame for getting involved. One on the sideline, it was a punch thrown. He probably deserved what he was going to get, and then the backroom team that he was taking in. Really on match day, can you change that much on match day? Really, like Anthony and then if he had really his homework done and his backroom team, they're a good, strong backroom team. He can put them. A lot of managers are going. Paddy Talley, for example, who's a trainer. He's spending his whole time now in the stand at the very, very back.
But even David Fitz and Kieran McGinley last year, most of the season. Off the pitch,
so
doable.
It's doable. Of course it is. Of course it is. And saying that, a lot of the teams now, or managers Stephen Rodgers spent a whole half their last weekend. So it's doable. To put the blame on that one, but I think there's a perfect storm here in Offaly has happened. County Board, Wallace himself and the players. The players haven't been strong enough either as characters to either back their manager and say the county board do absolutely nothing. Okay, we want to see the season through here and then go and make the decision.
It's been pretty poor management. Looking in from the outside, it looks as if it's been poor management by the county board. You could argue, I can see the merits in their decision that for a manager, if he wasn't even attending training, which is very honest on an Offaly behalf. I'm pretty sure McGeaney or David Fitz, as we mentioned, I'm pretty sure they were still on training pitches. So it's very, very honest from an Offaly behalf.
Maybe they were in the vicinity. We don't know if they were taking training.
Absolutely.
But Wexford and Armagh have managed to move on from that period without any further sanctions. So
absolutely,
clearly they were abiding by the rules as well.
Yeah. So, but for Offaly to have went with him during that period and sort of thought it's perfectly logical for me that the county board thought, well, let's see how this goes. We've sort of had a reasonable league, particularly a good ending to the league. Let's let this run for 4 or 5 weeks. Then a very poor performance against Wicklow. The 2 substitution issues, their defender who came off and really was quite obvious in having a go at the management. The Daly leaving the dressing room at half time. All of that stirs up a sign of a team not going well.
The first of those changes, the one with their stalwart defender, he was told by the medical staff that you cannot continue. They reckoned he was going to tear his quad muscle pretty much off the bone if he was going to continue playing, but he wanted to continue playing the game because that's the kind of guy that he is. The other one, the players apologised and he came back into the fold and he came back on later in the game, but of course then missed a penalty, which was kind of had further salt in the wound.
But if I was subbed, no matter how I felt I was doing, if I was subbed in a Tyrone game in a championship match publicly, I am not having a go at Mickey Hart coming off the pitch. It doesn't happen
because what the consequences would have been.
Not even just,
or you have too much respect for him.
Out of respect and team discipline.
Team discipline, I think, is the big thing.
So players even doing that on a pitch starts to raise queries. So from that point of view, you can see how the county board done it. But tax a man, after a championship loss, having backed him previously, doesn't make sense. Are Offaly going to go massively far in the qualifiers? I don't really think so. So are they making this change to try and make the Super 8s or something? No. So why are they appointing Paul Rouse to suddenly turn this round? I think it could have been managed, as Danny suggested earlier.
Particularly if they believed in his 3-year plan.
Well, he seemed to me, like I listened to him this week, and he seemed to be that, he was a fella who was actually trying, like even on the players, the striking thing, he said, listen, sleep on it, let me take it, let me try to resolve some of the issues. He seemed to be a fella who was taking on a fair bit on board, maybe even outside his remit, shall we say, to a certain degree. But if, like, what really irks me is this thing, as you say, about fellas being taken off. So there might be a thing of underneath the surface here, what's going on in that dressing room. And as Danny says, normal run of the mill. You get 3 or 4 fellas who are on that panel who are annoyed, I should be on, he shouldn't be on, whatever it is. But if you have that, you have to have a level of respect, and you have to have a level of respect for the manager and the management team. And as soon as you start crossing that, and as soon as you start publicly throwing the hands up or whatever, and it's petulance, it's to show people. So obviously there was obviously a groundswell of opinion maybe against them. Brian Gavin has been brought out. I don't know why he is the sounding board for this, but he's been brought out as if he's the man who's going to voice this opinion from everyone else. And to be honest with you, I don't know, would you even want to be in that job? Would you even want to do that? To be fair to Wallace, I think he wanted to try to right the wrongs, because I think he had the majority of the panel. But still, I think expectation levels are the big thing. You have expectation levels in Offaly, maybe that they should have beaten Wicklow, that they were an up-and-coming team, they were changing, but they're still a long, long way off. And when expectation levels get disconnected to the reality of a panel, that's when it gets really scary. And that's when you have no chances of
in a lot of counties, Danny. In some ways, over the last few years, Down is one of those counties where my family are from Cavan, and Cavan is probably another one of those counties, a traditional superpower that was winning All-Irelands and Ulster titles to beat the band back probably from the early 1900s through to the 1960s. But, Down people, they look back in the 60s and 91 and 94 and saw that final appearance in 2010, and they think that's where they should be going every year. But Offaly's expectation levels do not seem to have reached the level where they probably should be for a side that is pretty much a Division 3/4 team and didn't win more than one Leinster Championship game in a decade.
So that's where your expectation is,
But they're not, though. That's the problem.
But that's, you see, I suppose there's an opinion out there that people can rise out of the ashes and stuff like that. But the reality is, Dublin, Mayo, Galway are coming, Kerry. Those are the superpowers. They're the top 4, top 6 of Gaelic football, a bit like the Premiership. You might have the odd Carlow experience, for example, that'll come out of Division 4 and they'll celebrate wildly. You've still got Brendan Murphy, who will go to America. So, the league football has become now the main competition for them, league football. The Championship is a bit of a dead dog for Offaly. Down haven't won an Ulster title since 1994. An Ulster title. We haven't won a provincial title since 1994. We haven't been in a handful of them in that time in Ulster finals, and we've been beaten. So it is unrealistic for teams such as Down, such as Cavan, to come along out of the blue and say, right, we're going to win an All-Ireland, or we're going to get to Super 8s. For starters, it costs £500,000. And neither Cavan nor Down probably have that means to throw the money at coaching, at strength and conditioning, at facilities and all the rest of it. So there's a huge gulf in funding there with Offaly and Dublin and Offaly and Galway. So, it's completely unrealistic. And
yet we see counties like Clare, Limerick, Tipperary, Cavan, Fermanagh all reaching Monaghan, Donegal, reaching All-Ireland quarter-finals, semi-finals, finals in Donegal's case. All in the last 4 or 5 years, they've all got to the last 8 of the All-Ireland, so there's no reason why...
Or an opposite Meath on that table that was published, I think was it today. Meath are well up that table, and yet you would have to query where the progression is there. So there's certainly a connection with money, but in terms of, I suppose, getting back to the county boards moving against managers that aren't doing well, or player pushes or player shows of support, the name or where I expected the resignation to come this week was Pete McGrath up and loud, because he didn't hold back in that post-match interview. He literally just slagged off every bit of the team in a very outspoken, and I know Pete McGrath relatively well. He's an absolute genuine GA man, a real hardcore and a lovely spoken man, a teacher by profession. So he's not usually in that mode, but he really didn't hold back, and yet there's been nothing out of there. I'm sure there's been some sort of recriminations in behind the scene, but at least they seem to have managed it well, and it hasn't become the whole news story of the week. There was much less in Offaly to create a story of, and yet they've managed to hold the airwaves for a full week.
And incidentally, that table you just mentioned, it's in the Irish Independent today. Louth are bottom. They spend less money on commercial and fundraising or have less money generated through commercial means and fundraising than any other county in the country. So maybe there's a level of expectation amongst the Louth County Board, and they acknowledge where they are as a county.
It's funny, we were just talking about it outside because we were kind of linking it in with Monaghan. So you can kind of have the thing about resources and everything, and money's great, but it's obviously how you spend it and how you deploy it. You can just keep throwing it into a big black hole, and eventually you're just going to keep burning it. So from the Meath perspective, are they actually putting it to use? Are they utilising it to the best way? I don't know, I'm not privy to that kind of stuff, but I would think that the underage stuff is getting a whole lot better, and will start to bear fruit, hopefully. But the Monaghan thing, we're just questioning the Monaghan situation. You've got, I think it was 12 out of 20 of the panel that played in 2013 are still playing. Of the 8 that are gone, you have 4 players who've retired. So really you only had 4 fellas who walked away from that 20. And I think the stat was against Cavan, I think you had something like 8 or 9 who have changed. So they've managed to retain a squad in a small county with probably limited resources, shall we say, playing population, but they've managed to get the best from that group. And we were just kind of saying that, well, what is that? Is it a situation where the club situation is in good stead, as in fellas are playing club games, they're playing most of the time with the club, and guys seem to want to play with the county. They actually just seem, it's a kind of a badge of honour. There's an attraction to it. And I was just saying that to the boys, in Meath sometimes I hear fellas saying, oh, I wouldn't go in onto the county panel, or no interest going in onto the county panel. And you're kind of going, and then there's other agendas being where there's fellas coming off the county panel. I was saying it to you a couple of weeks ago, the Meath under 21 captain from last year pulled himself off the panel just at the end of the league, with a few other fellas from Simonstown. And you're kind of thinking, is there an agenda going on there? Why don't these guys want to put the hard work in? Do your time. We've all done our time. We've all sat, rode the pine for long enough to get your chance. But that just doesn't seem to be there anymore.
Your manager is the head. He's the godfather of your county. He is the shop. And if there's a doubt in the players and the panel, if there's a doubt in that man at the head of the head of the county team, then they're not going to play. Your team will have. Malachy O'Rourke has proved himself in Fermanagh and has proved himself in now Monaghan. He is a first-class manager. Nobody will say, but Mickey Hart has earned his respect with numerous All-Irelands and stuff. Nobody's going to... Well, you do hear some wee bit of discontent the odd time on some players coming off, but Tyrone seemed to get... Tyrone's bigger than that, and there's still that huge loyalty towards the county team.
But I'd say you still get that. I'd say, I don't necessarily take your argument, because myself and Enda could believe in Dave, right? And you're just not getting played, and you say, well, actually, I don't believe in Dave. I think he's completely off the wall, and then you just throw the toys out. You're not that off the wall there.
But it's up to me as a manager to convince Dave that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that is man management.
Malachy O'Rourke seems to be doing so well.
Man management is the hardest. It's not tactics, it's not man management. Trying to keep the crux of your best players happy.
People want to be part of his project.
Correct.
Well, I think this is, but I think I remember chatting to Horan about this, and he was saying about the Mayo, and he used to ring the Mayo panel every week. So coming up to a big game, he'd start making his phone calls, but he didn't ring the first 15. He'd ring the second 15.
That's first class management.
That's where the most of the time was spent. It was an hour talking to number 29, saying, "Listen, you're nearly there." And that is great. Absolutely. I remember thinking to myself, that's actually really, really good. But at the same time, you could have other agendas going on, which was what myself and Enda were speaking about.
For me, it's a chicken and egg story. I think unless within the county there's a general ethos of honour and privilege in playing for your county, and there's a general goodwill towards that county team, them players won't have developed enough, and whenever they get up to the top level, if there's any queries running about, just for me, in too many counties, the likes of, I suppose, up north, the likes of Derry, the likes of Down maybe to a lesser extent, but there's a general attitude within the county, and you hear it as a club v county thing, but there's a general disdain, slagging off the county, slagging off boys having to go to the county, slagging off the commitment that the various county teams are asking for, the underage county teams, and there's all this sort of anti-county team agenda, and it's quite a widespread thing throughout the GA at the minute. If 12, 13, 14 year olds are hearing that all the time, or your 17, 18, 19 year olds are hearing that all the time, where is the drive or the desire to play for the county? Where is the feeling of the huge honour it is to play for your county?
This would be the pinnacle.
If you rob county football of that, then you don't have it, and then you don't get buy-in. then no manager in the world is going to get full-time buy-in from your best players. It's too easy for your moderate level player, your almost county level player, or potentially county level player to be the big fella playing really well for his club and not take the risk of going up to that next level, because none of his mates or none of his family or none of his clubs are bestowing any honour at all to that county level. And so within a county, unless you have that raw desire to play for your county, and that's been undermined all the time by this club v county thing, then you'll see counties continually underperforming.
It's a pretty bleak picture you're painting there, Enda. We're going to change tack in a moment, because there's a couple of other items we want to get touched on, including Galway, Mayo and the fallout from that last weekend. We're going to take a quick break. Danny Hughes, Enda McGinley and Anthony Moyles are staying with us.
The Saturday Panel on Off the Ball,
in association with the Air Sport app, allowing you to cast your favourite sporting action from your tablet or mobile phone straight to your TV.
Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter.
Dennis and Mary did their family's one-stop full shop at Lidl, getting a tasty family lunch for under €7, with Taste of Basmati rice $1.29, Meadow Fresh baby leaf spinach 69¢, and fresh Irish chicken breast fillets $4.35. Now with more range and more value, there's more for you at Lidl.
Take back the confidence to smile again with dental implants, the permanent solution to missing teeth and uncomfortable dentures. Smiles Dental is Ireland's #1 provider of dental care, and we're offering 10% off implants and free consultations. Visit smiles.ie for a quote estimate. Terms and conditions apply. Offer available for a limited time.
You can get a percentage so small. Low.
Flat fee rates, flexi fee rates.
And you can save more with that.
While everyone else talks in percentages and jargon, the bottom line is owning a new Audi is now more affordable than you think, thanks to our Inspiration 182 sales event. So contact your local Audi dealer today while stocks last. Audi, Vorsprung durch Technik.
Well, Anya, how did you get on in court? Was it as bad as you thought? Actually, it went better than expected. The Awalya court advisor and solicitor were so helpful.
Good.
There's a chance we might be able to hold on to the house. We're so relieved.
Awalya is the free mortgage arrears support service. Call the MABS helpline on 0761 07 2000 or log on to mabs.ie. Awalya, the state-funded service for people in home mortgage arrears. Standard network charges may apply.
Are you running low on office supplies? Come to huntoffice.ie, Ireland's #1 online destination for office products and a whole lot more. Now, offering over 100,000 products at the lowest prices with next day nationwide delivery. Why shop anywhere else? Pay us a visit today. You'll be surprised at what you might find. Huntoffice.ie, for all things office.
Some jobs need a master, a mortgage master, with dedication, focus, and expertise. If you need results, you need someone with decades of know-how, with no distractions, no time wasting, and no faffing around. Not a jack of all trades, but the master of one. For a job as important as your mortgage, that's EBS, the Mortgage Masters. Search EBS Mortgage Masters to find out more. Lending criteria, terms, and conditions will apply. EBS DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
At Fota Island Resort Cork, we're not fond of bluster and rush. That's why, instead of breathlessly tearing through this commercial, listing all our excellent special offers, we thought we'd calmly direct you to our website, fotaisland.ie, where you'll find 5-star luxury at truly exceptional value. We look forward to seeing you at fotaisland.ie.
There comes a time in every successful business, every school, every sports club, when you need more space. Whether you're expanding your workplace, holding an event, or need extra storage, at Big Space Solutions, we can help. We're Ireland's expert suppliers of high-end temporary structures, providing big space solutions if you're launching a product, need temporary warehousing, or growing your production area. With Big Space Solutions, you choose your design. There's no capital outlay, and long and short-term hire is available. Call us and we'll arrange to see one of our structures in situ. Visit bigspace-solutions.com. Smart solutions for temporary storage.
The Saturday Panel on Off the Ball,
in association with Air. Don't miss live and exclusive Premier League action this month on the Air Sport Pack.
This is News Talk.
Okay, 53106 for 30 cent is our text number. You can tweet us at Off The Ball. Enda McGinley, Danny Hughes and Anthony Moyles are part of our Saturday panel. We spent the first half of it talking about the fallout from Offaly senior football and everything that went on with the sacking of Stephen Wallace during the week, and just brought it out to a more of a general GA chat. But we've had plenty of you in touch over the last half an hour or so. Lads, it was a complete shambles last weekend at the Offaly match. No complaints from Offaly GA supporters, who have been pretty quiet. There hasn't been this outpouring of shock and revulsion at the sacking of Stephen Wallace. Lads talking about teams knowing their level is crap. If a fella was on saying, look, this is our level, you'd be criticising them for lack of ambition. That's a fair point, isn't it? Like, we'll sit here and say Offaly should know their level, they should know their limits, they should know really where their expectation levels should be. But being horrified at losing to Wicklow on the Leinster Football Championship maybe is where they need to be. Otherwise, they'll just accept their lot.
I think if the sacking was due to purely losing a game against Wicklow, then that argument would hold water. I don't think any of us here, any competitive footballer, you're not built to accept your level. You're always expected to punch above your level, but it's a reactionary sacking to a defeat that would appear to paint, well, hang on, what are you expecting here? But I suppose what we're all saying is that is not the sole reason for that sacking. There's other things going on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
No one Offaly expecting them to win the All-Ireland or Provincial. Most thought Wallace a bad appointment. That's obviously just a general thought from one particular listener. It doesn't necessarily reflect the thoughts of Offaly supporters in general. Darby touted for years, never appointed. He brings the experience to help Rouse, who knows Offaly football inside out too. Players need now to put their heads down and work extra hard. That reference to Rouse, if you haven't heard, is that Paul Rouse, the UCD lecturer and a regular contributor to Off The Ball, is the new Offaly manager. He has been appointed on an interim basis, so it's a really interesting one. I want to move on from all things Offaly, as interesting as it has been for the last week.
It's hard to beat a soap opera.
And it's not often. Probably have to go back to when they won the Leinster title in '97 under Tommy Lyons for the last time Offaly got this much airtime on any radio station. But I want to go back a week to the game in Castlebar, lads, and Mayo, and how that may well shape the summer, because we really thought that the losers of this game was going to be in serious trouble, and it would appear that Mayo are in a real spot of bother, because they now have to go down the hard road. Once they get over this break before the qualifiers, they're going to be playing week in, week out, all the way to a potential All-Ireland quarter-final and the Super 8s, as we now call them. Where now for Mayo, Danny? How worried should their supporters be about their future, that so much still rests on the same few veterans, that they've no real free taker on the panel? Even I think Cillian O'Connor's free taking has to be questioned at this stage. He's not this prolific, accurate 45-metre kicker that he was when he was winning those Young Player of the Year awards. Is discipline an issue? They've lost their last 3 championship matches. They've had a man sent off in each of those games, 2 against Galway, 1 against Dublin. And while it was an hour enough defeat, and you can point to the injury to Tom Parsons, and you can point to the red card to Diarmuid O'Connor, there may be reasons rather than excuses. But if I was a Mayo supporter, I'd be worried, very worried.
I wouldn't be as worried as the rest of the country. I think Mayo have been written off for every year, for how many years now, and they've always come back and they've always went this back road. And Galway have beaten them. Galway's recent history against Mayo is quite good. So they haven't won the Connacht title for a couple of years, and I wouldn't be that worried if I were Mayo. Tend to get better as the year goes on, as games go on. They certainly don't blast any teams out of the water going through the back door. But I think when they're coming closer to Croke Park, Mayo seem to get a wee bit better. They have been a kick of the ball away in this last 2 years. They've been so unlucky. These players, Aidan O'Shea, Parsons, yes, injury, Lee Keegan, who's still to come back in. But the Andy Moran, O'Connor's, they don't become bad players just overnight. They had a decent league campaign. Yes, they were beat against the Galway. They were very, very well set up and very well drilled, and were expecting to beat Mayo. So am I worried about Mayo? Probably not as much as other people, because I think that the backdoor route will probably suit Mayo in the long run, and they're going to meet a lot of weak teams like Offaly.
What if they don't, though? What if they meet the losers of the game in Healy Park tomorrow?
Well, I still think Mayo, when the pin's put to their collar, Mayo can still, in the back door, come out with some pretty good results. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be pretty. All they have to do is get through, get to the Super 8s, and then reassess things from there. Galway will be in the Super 8s, I've no doubt about that. But you have, the two big teams there that met in the first round game. The loser was obviously going to go through a more difficult period, and the fact that they did have a long summer last year for Mayo, but they never shone in the league. They were giving the players a chance. So, I think Mayo can still come good. I really do. And I think any team that's written them off over the, this last number of years, I think it's always come back to bite them because they haven't been far away.
Teams will fear them. If you're in the hat now, and you don't want to pull them out of the hat. Absolutely not. The only problem I have with them is, I felt if Galway lost, I thought it might be a little bit of a kick in the arse for them, because they've had such a good league and there was an awful lot of people talking about them, and I thought actually Walsh wouldn't have been too disappointed because he'd kind of say, right now we're going to, really tear through, and it might give them a bit of impetus. And I really worried for Mayo because I looked at the team, and bar Loftus and it's still, we talk about Monaghan, it's still same old, same fellas.
See, that's the basis for my fear for Mayo, and that if they don't get big games out of Moran, out of Aidan O'Shea, Keith Higgins, Lee Keegan when he's back, Colin Boyle, Kevin McLaughlin, there are no guys to replace them.
Yeah, but that's a lot of big players. Yeah, exactly.
Need to be really bad.
Yeah,
but it's the same guys every year.
Well, what you need is, and this is what I think may help them. If the nice break now will help, because you'll be able to heal, and we've been here before. That's going to be the talk, and we can do this again. So that's going to be the kind of rhetoric going around. And whether they pull a strong team or a weak team, you're probably better off pulling a strong enough team, because you can really go at it, and as soon as you can see it just being stamped up on the wall, here we go, we're playing either Monaghan, whoever it is, and the thing he really needs to unearth then through that backdoor system is like Loftus or someone like that really has to start standing up. So he has to unearth.
For years, though,
I know, but this is why the qualifiers can maybe bring that. If it can't, and you're correct, if he's still having to rely even through the qualifiers that you're still going back, well then they'll get to the Super 8, but I don't think they'll push it.
That's the crucial thing. That I don't think they can take a strong team in the first or second round of the qualifiers. I think they need a couple of easy rounds where I don't expect them to be doing that well. But look, it is easy to make the grandiose statements and write them off, because inevitably at some stage you are going to be right. That amazing group of players that Mayo have, at some stage them boys are going to be 45. They will be too. So if you keep saying it, they're going to be right at some stage. But going purely on last week's game, let's bring this into context. If we're giving credit, or if we're building up Galway to say they're one of the top 3-4 teams in the country, well then Mayo went toe to toe with them. With Cillian O'Connor just back having no football under his belt, Keith Higgins having played no National League football, no Lee Keegan, and playing the critical part of the game with 14 men,
and yet a half-fit Cillian O'Connor when he does come on.
Jamie O'Shea hardly any football.
Tom Parsons. And yet it was only in the last kick of the game with that goal that Galway beat them. Right up until that, Mayo were still so they're not that far away. You could flip it the other way and question Galway. You could say, well, hang on, Galway, you were on top form in the league. You were playing against Mayo with all them weaknesses that I've just described, and they went down to 14 men, and yet you still, to score a goal like that takes a measure of luck for any county team to get that opening at that critical time. Very easily you couldn't have had that. And then, so Mayo could have came through that game quite easily with a point win. The entire talk this week is completely different.
So different.
The narrative. So can we make them massive jumps in narrative because of that narrative change? Of course, Mayo is on borrowed time with that team. Is there kicking them? Possibly. Do they need things to fall their way? Absolutely. I think Conor Loftus, again, he's a young player, but he does need to start stepping up a wee bit more. Andy Moore needs to somehow maintain the form he has last year. Cillian O'Connor needs to get into a good run of form. So they need, as a team ages, you need more and more things to run in your favour, including the draw and the back door. They didn't need to be in the back door, but that's where they are now. Does it rule them out? No. Does it build things more against them? It does. For me, the round robin of the league section will come against Mayo as well, so increasingly things are being built against them, but that team has proved themselves so many times. Why bother writing them off?
Is that how you found it going with that Tyrone team that you were on post 2008? That as the years went by, you felt more and more things had to fall your way?
Probably prior to 2008. We had probably started to slip 06 and 07. And 08 was a reasonably new, a fair smattering of new players, and we had a relatively poor league campaign. We got put out in the first round by Down after a replay, and I remember we were completely written off in that game, and we scraped through a number of qualifiers, beat Mayo actually in a crucial round 4 qualifier where we got 0 credit because it was a poor game, but we took massive credit because Mayo had a decent team, and then we hit Dublin in the quarter final, and then we hit form. So we needed that bit of time to rebuild ourselves. We knew deep inside, we were looking around the dressing room thinking, we have quality, if we can click, we have got something here. But that was our last kick. It proved to be our last kick. We probably should have done something the year we got narrowly beat by Cork. There probably was something else there as well, but we never came. So 08 was a wee bit of a kick of us, but Mayo were about 3-4 more years down the line than that Tyrone team was at that stage.
But they will still feel that way in that changing room, Anthony, just the way that Enda has described. They'll look around at each other and go, look at all the quality that's here.
Absolutely.
Like, we still have that kick.
They will, yeah, but I think then it comes down to mental fortitude rather than actual ability and skill and everything else that they have, because they've shown that. Now, their mental fortitude has been shown as well. It looks like their mental fortitude
is like infinite.
It is, but it's infinite until it isn't. It's exactly what Enda said. It's, you know, there is going to be, because even last year in the qualifiers they came through some hairy ones. Remember, I can't remember, there was one where it was Derry, I think, wasn't
just
it?
Cork, they were beaten
that game. So they'll have to go to that point again. It'll happen. It'll happen against whoever it is. They'll have to go to the well, and it'll be that moment where there's a dirty ball or whatever it is, or you have to make it, and it'll be just that moment where, can I do this again? Can McLaughlin go again? Because I think he's the heartbeat really of that whole thing. He plays badly. It seems to not go right for them, but I think Enda's right. They're not that far away, even weren't far away. Galway, for all the stuff that they should have had, they never even brought the game to them. It showed the fear that they had of Mayo, the way they set up and continue to set up against them. So I think Danny is right, but the question is, and it will happen, that when it comes to that crunch moment, can they find it again?
Well, you see, the way the provinces are structured, Leinster, Munster and Connacht, the two big, Mayo and Galway, the two big games. Outside of that, whatever way it was going to go, it was going to be that was going to be the toughest game that Mayo or Galway were going to have before they go to the Super 8s.
If Kevin McStay's listening to this, they'll be pinning those comments up on the inside.
The reality, you're going on the quality on the team
champions.
sheet. Yeah, but you're going on the quality. We've seen from Tyrone, you can win an Ulster title, Roscommon the same, they can win a Connacht title, but when it comes, you need that quality on the team sheet. And I just think that Mayo team, yes, they've been written off, but there is still quality there.
Yeah, there is,
and,
absolutely.
Aidan O'Shea is still one of the best players in the country. Yes, people talk about him not turning up in certain big games and stuff like that, but he's still a quality player, and you put him down into outside of Croke Park and any of them places, Portlaoise or Tullamore or anything like that man will be standing head and shoulders above a lot of people. And the same with some of them all players. Andy Moran, people will say Andy Moran, his last big year last year and stuff like that, and yes, he got a couple of fortuitous points the other day, but one, I think he pushed the boy, I suppose, what do you call that, using your experience, pushing the boy in the back and getting away with it.
It's called fouling.
Yes. But the reality is, you'll still need them players and them other provincial grounds, and you'll see Mayo come strongly. I think
they seem to revel in it.
They do.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah. It does seem that unless they've been backed into a corner, they're not going to perform. And they found themselves in a lot of corners over the last 6-7 years under James Horan and the various managers that they've had. It's no surprise that whenever we talk about Mayo, people love talking about Mayo.
But they're great stories.
They really are, and
really
it's generated a huge reaction amongst our listeners and our viewers here this afternoon. 53106 for 30 cent. If you want to get in touch with a text message, you can tweet us at Off the Ball. Matt Regan says, I'm a Mayo supporter, but something needs to be said about how poor the full forward line is. Andy Moran never receives any criticism, but if we're being honest, he isn't at the level needed to win. Now that is as critical a text of Andy Moran that I have seen. He got two from play at the weekend. Yeah. Yes, he was being crowded out, but it was a Mayo team that couldn't find a way through. What's Andy Moran expected to do? He's the footballer of the year.
When you've 10 or 12 or 13 players behind the ball and you're playing on the full forward line, I would say it's the most difficult position in Gaelic football now, is the full forward line. Yeah. Bradley does it for Tyrone. You mightn't touch the ball for a whole half. You know, that is what we're talking about here, at inter-county level, at the highest level. So I think people that criticise inside forwards in today's game really don't understand today's game.
But he was also being selfish, Danny. He was also back in his own defence, working hard. Like, I was actually saying he shouldn't be doing that at all. He should stay up. No, I
think Andy Moore, I suppose for me, I don't see him as an out-and-out traditional top quality full forward or a top quality forward, but he has worked so hard at his game, and last year, like, you cannot argue against Evans to do what he done in the biggest of games. The consistency of his shooting, his finding of space and shooting on the turn. You can slag off any player, but until you can do that,
sentence there, if we're being honest, he's not at the level needed to win. Put it this way, if there were two Andy Moorans in the Mayo forward line last year, they'd be the All-Ireland champions.
Yeah, without a doubt,
100%.
And he's not the quickest. Andy Moran would probably say it himself, he's not the quickest. He's coming out against some of the best cornerbacks in the game that has played in Dublin cornerbacks, and he's kicking points against them.
But his movement is excellent.
His movement is
smart.
Maybe anybody to share.
Maybe what the person's saying is, and you sort of mentioned it earlier, Mayo do seem to lack an out-and-out top quality forward, if you know what I mean. We can question their free taking. Andy Moran is good in there, but they're probably missing that real spark of danger that the likes of Comer, the likes of Shane Walsh, even he had one of his better days, particularly in the second half in the last game. But having that wee bit of actual sheer speed and spark,
magic,
which Moran can't bring because of his age. He brings all the experience.
Next correspondence from our listeners is forward related. They were very poor at Castlemar. They can't shoot from distance. Jason Doherty contributes very little. He had a very good year last year, Jason Doherty. There are no young scorers. You made that point a couple of times already, Moylesy. Aiden doesn't change matches anymore. Paul says, I think Mayo just have too much baggage at this stage. Would love to see them go all the way, but just can't see how they can go to the well again. And there is that question about Mayo. How often can you go to that dark place, find an answer? They've been able to do it until now, which is why, like myself included, just refuse to write them off, because they probably just make you look really stupid later in the summer. If only Dermot and his brother, for that matter, could stay on the pitch for a full match, the two of them are picking up too many cards. Have they an issue with discipline, Anthony? Because there's a very good chance if Dermot does not assault Paul Conroy, and call a spade, that's one of the filthiest challenges we have seen in inter-county football for quite some time.
I'd say since the great Meath team sort of put that.
I like the way there was some I think Marty Murray was still questioning it. He was kind of going, no, I didn't see anything in that.
It was the classic look of innocence afterwards, and when you watch it real time, I sort of thought, was that a handoff? Was it a handoff? And then you watch the replay, and with every angle it just got worse.
So bad. You know what sprung to mind was Ben Thatcher on Pedro. Pedro unconscious on the side of the field. I thought it was that bad, but if Dermot doesn't get himself sent off, and as talented and influential a player he is, they probably win the game. If Donny Vaughan doesn't follow John Small into the stands in the All-Ireland, they're probably All-Ireland champions. They probably beat Galway if they don't lose a man last year. What's going on?
But again, you can kind of say that's an easy one to point a finger at, but quite often a team of 14 players will actually step up, and that is what happens. You step up.
When you're against a Galway team, set up as they are.
I was thinking coming down the road, have we seen many times in the so-called modern game, I hate using the word, but in the so-called modern game, have we seen many 14-man teams because of the sheer speed, because of the need for numbers at the back, but trying to keep a few numbers up front, and then the need for 4 regular subs to be down a full man is... I'm not sure if it's maybe the way it just was for 14 men.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Dublin have done it a few times, haven't they, in the last number of years?
Oh, yeah.
But just the general discipline
I know we're talking about it. Yeah, I know you can't include it. Well, that was my go-to. But I don't think they've a discipline problem. I don't. It's not massive. I don't think it is. I don't think it's a situation where there's anything. Okay, you can look at the Vaughan thing. It is rash and all that stuff, and O'Connor. But I just think I'd say they got really pent up. The league affair was fairly feisty. Okay, there was bodies everywhere. Conroy is a big figure for Galway. I'd say the thing was, in plenty of heads, give him plenty of it and see how they react. And there was always going to be a bit of that rash, everything else. I still think, though, Mayo, we just said it, they love adversity. I think they actually said, okay, 14, here we go. It's just another adverse element to throw in another grandchildren. So we'll just lob it in there with the rest and we'll keep going.
Well, look, they've got a belly full of adversity now, and who would back against them coming out with it? Before we wrap, lads, just a look ahead to some of the games involving your own counties. Down out next weekend, Danny. Clearly, we've had you on the show a couple of times in the last few months. They've had their issues. It's been another really bad league campaign. You're a now Division 3 team. You're up against Antrim next weekend. What's the general feeling in the county at the moment? Because the winner of this game gets a crack at another Ulster semi-final, and wouldn't be a bad place to be in.
No, it wouldn't. But against Donegal, I suppose it's a different proposition.
You should beat Antrim first.
I know, and you can't. I honestly can't call it.
What we were talking about earlier.
I can't call it. I actually can't. I can't call this game because
it's in Park Esther. Is that where Down are at the moment? That you see this game as a 50-50 game?
I can't call that game. Honestly, I'm telling you.
Are you dampening expectations?
No. I was listening, but I'm not sure if I'm going to, because I'm a big Liverpool supporter, so I'm not even sure if I'm going to go to the game. You know.
Where has Down football ended up?
No, honestly, no. I probably will go to the game, but
there would be massive ramifications if Down lost Antrim in Park Esther.
The sector manager.
At the end of the year, they would.
Well, put it this way. Everything would say that in Uri, Down playing Antrim will be a Down win. But Down have dropped to Division 3. Antrim were unlucky, probably a wee bit unfortunate that they never got promoted out of Division 4. I don't see a big difference between Division 4 and the lower of Division 2 at the minute. I honestly can't turn around my hand and my heart and say I fancy Down to beat Antrim at the gate next Saturday, because I don't.
10 days time, lads.
Honestly,
10 days time, the Down manager lost the job. Danny Hughes will
no, absolutely not.
Paul Rouse of Down.
Just give the Offaly County Board a call to see what the template is.
No, and honestly, I don't think that would never, Down would never do that.
Okay.
They would never ever do that. But,
never say never.
Says Down's Brian Gavin.
Meath are out tomorrow week. They're going to Pearse Park to take on Longford. I think this is a real potential banana skin. Looking at the
for
build
Longford.
Meath, they haven't met in the Championship in 23 years, which just astonished me. They haven't met since 1995, but you've got a Meath team that didn't pull up any trees in Division 2, a Longford side that probably consider themselves a little unlucky not to get out of Division 3, and Pearse Park, in the qualifiers in particular, has been the graveyard of several half-decent teams in the last 10 years. Are you worried?
Like, you're always going to be worried because you just never know in that first round. You never know, and I think a manager, if you spoke, and I spoke to Andy during the week, you just don't know. You never, because it looks all good. You're on the training pitch, looks good. You're playing challenge games, looks good. Yeah, moving well, but you just never know, and that is the absolute. That's just, I suppose, the fascinating thing about Championship. Just that first round, it doesn't make a difference who it is. Quite often, it's the bigger the game, the better the game. You know, if it was Meath v Dublin or Meath v Kildare. So there's going to be pressure.
It's tricky.
It is tricky because they've been moving really well down there. Like, I mean, you know, the old days, I remember when Dublin went down and nearly got turned over by them, all that kind of stuff.
They're graveyard for Ulster football in there. They have knocked out so many Ulster teams in the qualifiers down there.
So absolutely.
Down, Cavan, Monaghan, up in Clones.
That's why first round, people complained about last week about how dour spectacle Mayo Galway was. But first round Championship games, the guys will tell you here, they're horrible. They're horrible experiences. Don't tell me I've ever come out of a first round Championship, geez, I really enjoyed that. I don't think I ever enjoyed a Championship match in my life. You enjoy the winning, but you don't enjoy the actual game. First rounds are horrific experience.
Because you actually don't know where you are yourself.
No.
You know, you're kind of going in, the confidence isn't built up at all. Question marks over the team, question marks over the setup, all the different things. You can nearly feel it from the management.
And if you have a bad game yourself, you're saying, oh geez, this doesn't bode well for the rest of the year. You know, all them factors all build into a first round Championship game.
Had a great line. His fellow Rowan McGuckin from Ballinderry is in with my club Ergel here, and he said first round Championships, boys, is a matter of getting down into the trenches and just fighting. They're not a place for fancy football, they're not a place for anything. They are literally down in the trenches and fight it out, get through it, and then build something. But first rounds, that's where it all comes.
And is that what Malachy O'Rourke and Mickey Hart will be saying to their players, sending them out into Healy Park tomorrow?
No, I don't think so. I think for Malachy and Mickey, both of them, they will be looking serious performances from both teams. They're both men that have big aspirations for their teams. They have had National League campaigns that have both fostered a great sense of optimism. I haven't been chatting to quite a few Monaghan people this week. I have never seen them as confident, particularly playing Tyrone. I would have known a long time, and for whatever reason, when they played against Tyrone, they lacked complete confidence. They had maybe an early round victory against us one year, but particularly
they won
the games
in 2014 or 15. It was the first time they'd beaten them since
13,
the 88 Ulster title, Ulster final.
But even them years then, come Croke Park in the bigger games, they again wilted to Tyrone teams that weren't actually that much better than them. But it seems to have, there is a different wee buzz about Monaghan at the minute, so they're going to be coming with great confidence. Tyrone walked Ulster last year. I don't think they were that far ahead of the rest of Ulster last year. I think just as the way it panned out. But for me, they have improved quite a bit, particularly from the second half of the National League. Tyrone in the first half of the National League, Mickey was playing a lot with different players, slightly different formations, and it was a bit broken. But the last 3 games, funny enough, from the Monaghan defeat in Blaney that they suffered, Tyrone have then went 3 games wins back to back, playing more consistent football. A lot of their players are reaching a high level. And funny, speaking to one of the Tyrone lads at the end of the National League campaign, he said early on in the league, he says they wouldn't have had big numbers at training. It was very broken up. There was boys away at various other things. Moy obviously on their All-Ireland run. There was Sigerson Cup competitions. There was maybe there was other competitions, but they had nobody there all the time. And interestingly, he said Steve O'Neill was trying to work on things, but he was working on things in training, and then it was different boys playing the match on Sunday, and there wasn't any consistency at all. So, which was very usually Tyrone's preparations are better than that, but that would certainly explain how it was in the first 3-4 weeks, and also it give quite an indication of how much work Stevie O'Neill and how much weight was being placed on this development work of the forward line, and we've seen glimpses of that in the last 3 games. So for the first time in quite a while, we're playing essentially with 3 out and out full forwards.
Yeah, so Conor McAllister, Mark Bradley and
Lee Brennan
all starting tomorrow. Well, if they do all start, they've all been named in the programme at least. Yeah. And, if they do start, like none of those 3 are associated with the running game, or associated with tracking their men way out the field. If they do start, do they all play within 40 yards of the Monaghan goal?
The style we would have tried to play, and the style Stephen O'Neill would have been most used to, would have been, we would have played sort of like almost like a triangular where with 2 inside, maybe 1 man playing at the point, and you sort of always tried to maintain a relationship in there, and you were looking them diagonal balls, and you were always trying to hit the D with passes in. Now, the calibre of the forward isn't, so with all due respect to them 3 lads, they are not Stephen O'Neill or or Peter Canavan, so they're not quite that, but they are 3 excellent forwards in their own right. What annoys me sometimes about our discourse about the modern game is that we will look for a set system that stays there throughout the game. Without a doubt, at times during this game, Tyrone will have 14 or 15 men behind the ball, and so you can look at that and say nothing's changed, but I think more times than not, I think we'll have at least 2 men up there. And maybe 3 at times, and there might be a greater emphasis on kicking. We will still try absolutely to run that ball at times, particularly when the men are back. So the tactics are more fluid than what we maybe as commentators like to say a team's playing this way or a team's playing that way. The tactics will change during this game. Players will go out and do what you need to do. Like, I'm sure we've all played in games where you've played in a game, you've been in the dressing room, you've been in all the tactical meetings, you can go home and you watch maybe the Sunday game and see the tactics being analysed, and they're calling tactics that never happen. I remember one of the Ireland finals we started, and the ball I was up for the throw. The ball broke to my side. I got the ball and ran straight down. It was getting carried straight down. The hard defence was fouled, and they said, "Oh, that's straight off the dressing room." That's not a mission. Was that? It just happened. You just play it. If you're a forward, and maybe you're supposed to be trying to stay up the pitch more, but next thing you're seeing a defender going into a nice enough pocket of space, you're getting back. You have to get back, and if that means that everybody's back, well, then everybody's back. So managers will send out general formations. I think Tyrone will be looking to keep more often than not 2 up the pitch. But at no time will Mickey be telling them you're not allowed to come back and defend. So players will do what they need to do and things will be fluid. But yeah, that's going to be the most interesting thing about this match. I think Monaghan, we know how they're going to play. They have McManus, he'll be out and out full forward.
I think
Conor McCarthy, McCarran will be up there fairly close too. They're not natural attackers either. But all in that, I think Monaghan's going to be fairly defensive, breaking out through the likes of the energy of the Hughes brothers and things like that through the middle third. Tyrone are going to be still generally defensive. Mickey has said himself he's not going to be throwing the baby out with the bathwater from last year. But I think we're going to be trying to keep maybe 2 up most of the time, and maybe even 3 if things are allowing it.
Do they press the ball though? Will those players press the ball? Because
on kickouts or in general play?
In general play and in kickouts. The thing about it is, when you look at the All-Ireland final against Mayo, when you look at Dublin being pressed, and this is where other teams have to base. Dublin is the bar. If that's the bar, they can go and they can beat Monaghan, sure. They can go and they beat down, they beat under. But eventually they'll come to meet Dublin, and you can't just switch it like that. It's not a click of the fingers. So they have to set themselves up to be as good as Dublin are. And can Tyrone play a high pressing game? The
only problem with pressing Monaghan though is begging in goal for Monaghan. And actually even in the league game with Dublin, he was phenomenal at finding kickouts. He really is. He's up there with Cluxton. He's probably pushing Cluxton as hard because he's very, very comfortable on the ball. He'll come out, he'll play as a fly goalkeeper, he'll come out, he'll pick a pass out where fellas are trying to go with the players. He'll kick a pass 45, 50 metres down into the forward line, into space. So that's an extra bit of a weapon they have. Tyrone, if they sit back, I think would be just kind of nearly inviting him on. Maybe they'll decide, okay, because I don't know if Colin Kavanagh is going to be right, but maybe they'll decide, okay, we'll concede the kick out short. I think the kick out and the general, because as Enda said, a big determinant factor of whether you're putting in those diagonal balls that Stephen O'Neill used to love as a player, the no-look pass, which you could see against Dublin actually in the first half in the league this year. Or they're doing a running game, which you could really see against Donegal in the league this year. So they have now the 2 options, but a big determinant factor of whether you're doing that is whether you're having the ball or not, whether you're winning the ball enough around the middle of the field. I think 6 is a big problem for Tyrone and has been over the last number of years, but you were saying they really seem...
Frank Burns
has really seemed to solidify that. A lot of Tyrone's problems the last few years were goals straight up the gap, straight down the middle, straight up the 6th channel, fellas being pulled out, goals, and they've really strengthened that. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game, but I think Tyrone...
In terms of the pressing, I don't think it's an either-or question. I don't think a team has to press or a team doesn't press. I think if you have a free kick, or if you're naturally high up the pitch and you have high numbers up the pitch, I think you then press. I think if it's a counter-attack where most of your team is still in the back and you've only 3 or 4 up there and it's a quick kick out, you'd be mad because you're caught in no man's land. Everybody trying to rush forward and everybody only half getting there, and you're loose at the back and then you're all over the shop. So I think teams again nowadays, you'll see teams at times, they seem to be giving up kickouts, next thing they're in a full court press. So I think teams have certain moments on the pitch where they know they're set up to press, or where they know they're out of position and it's too risky to press. It's better to just consolidate and bring them on. So again, the tactics are more fluid than what we try to stamp a team. They're playing high press, they're playing full defence. The top teams can go in between. Nobody more so than Dublin.
We love to brand these teams as being defensive or attacking. Galway are defensive.
Well, it's all Galway are defensive.
Mayo want to be attacking, but Galway dragged them to that level. Lads, we could sit here for another couple of hours. It's been fascinating stuff. Thanks a million to Danny, to Enda and Anthony Moyles.
Cheers, Dave.
We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to head to the RDS and begin our build up to the Pro 14 semi-final between Leinster and Munster with Andy Dunn.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
In association with the Air Sport app, allowing you to cast your favourite sporting action from your tablet or mobile phone straight to your TV.
Bobby's Late Breakfast.
This Sunday we'll have royalty of the Irish musical kind when I'm joined by the legendary Finbar Fury, who talks trad, top of the pops, and why he's only getting started. We chat to adventurer Jackie Hill Murphy, who's been to the highest and coldest places on earth. We roll back the years to when aviation darling Amelia Earhart landed in Northern Ireland. Plus, we draw first blood in the cultural toolbox.
Bobby's Late Breakfast.
Join me this Sunday morning at 9 and let me ease you into your Sunday.
On News Talk.
Did you know that if you supply new or used cars or light commercial vehicles to drivers in the Republic of Ireland, you have a legal obligation under end-of-life vehicle regulations? That's where Elves can help by providing you with the most cost-effective option to ensure you're compliant. Visit elves.ie for your 2018 motor dealer application form. Elves. Driving car recycling forward.
From his bold and brilliant scenes of Berlin cafe culture to his intimate portraits, flower paintings and stormy landscapes in the South Sea Islands, Emil Nolda expressed his art through an eclectic range of colourful paintings, drawings and prints.
Now, for the first time in Ireland in over 50 years, his works are on display at the National Gallery of Ireland. Don't miss your chance to see the works of this master German expressionist, Emil Nolde. Colour is life. Tickets from €5 on sale now at nationalgallery.ie.
Creating a perfect holiday is just like creating anything. You start off with the basics, like, I want a beach holiday. Then you add a little more, a 4-star hotel. Then you add a few more flourishes. Near the beach, a local restaurant, flights to your favourite destination, and it's all been reviewed by people like you. And before you know it, you've made something really special. Book your perfect holiday. Search Travel Republic now. Travel Republic, yours for the making.
At Centra, we have great new offers in store this weekend, like Lion's Original Blend Tea Bags 40-pack half price. Perfect for the family. Centra Easy Peeler Net 800 gram, only €1, both until Saturday. And Raise a Toast with San Vitalia Prosecco, only €10. Centra, live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
At Appliances Delivered, we'd like to say thanks for making us Ireland's highest rated electrical retailer on Trustpilot. 5 stars. And we still have the lowest prices in Ireland guaranteed, like some competitors. But we offer more. Next day delivery nationwide. Choose your own delivery date. Free removal of your old appliance and a team of customer service specialists. But we couldn't do any of it without you. So thanks from appliancesdelivered.ie, Ireland's highest rated electrical retailer.
There have always been many great reasons to choose a Volkswagen. And for 182, we have 3 more. Non-existent rate PCP finance, technology upgrades, and purchase contributions of up to €2,000. Request a quote online or at your authorised Volkswagen retailer. We make the future real. Conditions apply. Purchase contributions only on finance contracts. Offers only available on models registered by July 31st. Volkswagen Bank GmbH Branch Ireland is authorised by the Federal Financial Supervisory Authority in Germany and regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland for conduct of business rules.